My games master appears to have turned into a cat.
It is.
Yeah, it's not like we didn't know. Hi, I'm Foxy Mitts, and this is Ingo. You know, something like that.
I'm Paul, and this is Little Hut.
Fine. Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and this is Sverd. I've painted an entire model.
And yourself.
You can actually just sit there. He's like just in frame.
It's so cute.
So today's video is going to be a little bit different from normal, as the observant amongst you have probably already noticed. And that's because I am including Foxy Mitts' Call of Cthulhu game, and specifically my character, the Nordic mercenary Sverd.
I got my big old, why are you bouncing?
Because there's a cat walking over the camera.
On with the scenario. Before we do anything, I need each of you to make me a luck roll.
I don't wanna.
You're doing it anyway.
27, I'm fine.
Is that a hard
That is
pass?
a hard success, yes.
Excellent.
I'm a wolf.
Yes. Oh, woo! Should wear your wolf hat.
That's a husky.
It's a wolf! He's the werewolf of Manchester, I'll have you know.
That is Godfred, played by Engel, who accidentally got himself turned into a werewolf. And my good friend Ratman is playing Rhea, the shield maiden, who quite deliberately married a goat person.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that the wolf has stopped and we're outside this old ruined building, I'm going to draw the weapon as a part of course.
Precaution.
How are you going to hold on? Oh, you've got off.
You're going to
I've got
slower than full speed.
He's got off.
Oh, you got off, okay.
We're
So
we're
now we
outside
charge
the
into
church
the
now.
building. Yeah, okay. So you got off, you're going to approach the building. Nice and slow, or are you just going to run in?
Or should we send the wolf in first?
Well, I'm assuming that Andrew's just going to run in like a lunatic.
But as neither of those two made models of their characters and I have, let's look at Sverd, the Nordic spearman who accidentally, on purpose, joined an evil cult. I'm going to start looking around at my little camp that I've been forced into, and I'm going to find all of the other people there, and I'm going to try and work out which one of them are full members and if any of them are part members like me.
Alright, roll me a
Awesome.
spot hidden. 2. You make the third. And the other one is male, and he's kind of like curled up in the corner, not really doing all that much. Forlorn and fed up with the world.
So I'm going to kind of walk up, stand near him, and like shuffle my feet to make sure he notices me, and then I'm going to make a point of looking around to make sure no one's watching, and then just kind of subtly say, not looking directly at him, but subtly say, "So I hear you're planning an escape."
There's this moment where you don't get a response, where he slowly raises his head and looks at you, and he's like, "Have you tried escaping? It's impossible."
Yeah, that's why I need your help. So whilst my character is in this predicament, let's make the model. Sverd is from Scandinavia, working as a mercenary across Europe in the early 1000s. His appearance, weapons and equipment make him easily mistaken for a Viking. So in this case I will be using a Viking herdman model from GBP Miniatures. I picked up a sprue of 2 command characters for quite a reasonable price and got to work, picking out the parts that gave him an interesting pose. I just did the hand with the swords to kind of have it pointed outwards in a heroic sort of way, and I threw on some rocks and baking powder on the base before I primed it so that I wouldn't have to go back and re-base it later. So let's get stuck into painting, and while I'm doing the base layers in the bottom right hand corner here, I'll let you watch an interesting exchange from our last game.
Mother indicates one of the priestesses. You know, Mother over there actually bound me and took me in.
It's good. It's good that they've looked after you.
Are you saying it in that sarky tone?
Well, given how if I roll for it, it's going to just be sarcastic, so I may as well come well.
Roll for sarcasm. Use your
Fine,
sarcasm.
I'll roll for sarcasm. High is sarcasm. I said high for sarcastic. I rolled 50. There is
Straight down the
equal amounts of sarcasm and not in that sentence.
He kind of raises an eyebrow at you. I know that you're probably like him over there and has been brought into this unwillingly.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Well,
I've made my peace. I've accepted
it's
my fate.
not fine, but
if you don't
okay.
accept your fate, you're going to end up in the... She tails off and starts stirring again.
Yeah, gonna end up in the pot.
In the pot with everyone else.
It's not kind of how I imagined.
She quickly clarifies that she did not mean in the pot.
I've met several cannibals in the last, month.
Do you say that to her?
Yes.
She stops and starts just looks at you like, what?
I killed the last
What have you
two.
been doing the past few...
I killed the last two.
I ate the others.
The previous ones got away. As you can see, Call of Cthulhu is a lovely game with no possible elements that I have had to cut out so that YouTube doesn't come down on me like a ton of bricks. What I can show you is some wet blending. Now, wet blending is a technique that I've spoken about quite a lot over the past few months, and is a technique that I enjoy using and am practicing to improve. On the cloak in particular here, I painted a single coat of a darker blue as my base layer, and the second layer I wet blended both the original darker blue and a lighter blue on the model itself, rather than mixing it in the palette. This means I can pull the lighter blue up to the higher rises of the cloak to act as highlights and push the darker blues down into the recesses to be the shadows. By doing this all in one go, it leaves a much smoother gradient of tones, whereas layering can be more difficult to hide the edges between the colours. Building and painting this model in particular was an interesting experience for me, as it's a character that I created myself. In the past few months I've painted characters that I've read in books, such as the Tanith First and Only, as well as some well-known computer game characters. But painting a character from a work of fiction that you like is quite a lot of fun. You have connection to that character, you've followed along in their antics. But by making a model for a character that I created, that I choose the actions of, I have a far closer connection to this model. So when I bring in elements like using a Viking model to represent a Nordic mercenary, I know full well that my character gets confused for Vikings. I've even fought against Vikings defending the village that I've ended up hanging out in. And when I said earlier that my character is a spearman, and yet the model I have here waving a sword around, well, that's also quite deliberate, because every story we've run through so far, my character has broken a spear. Either by slaying horrible monsters, or in silly accidents that endanger my allies.
It's just keeping track of how many times he's killed me.
Look, that was only the
Twice.
once.
Twice.
What do you mean twice? What was the second time?
You've killed me twice. On both occasions, you've ran me through. You ran me through, and it went into Andrew's chest, and that's how we knew learned he was a werewolf. So that was the second time.
And the first time was when you were actually doing the whole werewolf scenario and you
No,
charged.
the first time was in the church, in between the werewolf scenarios.
Yeah, but it was the scenario with the werewolf in it.
No, it wasn't.
It was
It
the
was,
the actual wolf.
it was after that.
Alright, there's three times then, because the first time was the werewolf scenario, where you accidentally ran Rhea through with the sword when you were going to charge at the werewolf because Rhea was basically fascinated by it and got in the way.
So
sort of going...
that was the first time of three then.
Actually, no, there was one scenario where you didn't kill.
Maybe
Paul.
I should have that shield off.
There's one.
As you can tell, I'm quite popular in my group, and I've managed to get well into this model. I have some greens, some blues, lots of metallics, and I'm painting into the middle of the colour wheel, as I tend to do, ending with quite a few brown elements. The wolf fur on the cape being a particularly good example here. Speaking of the cloak, How much of my cloak is left? Did we agree that it was the hood of the cloak that got cut off?
The hood, yeah.
Yes, they have the hood. You've got the rest of the cloak.
Because this is a cape. It doesn't have a hood, and the difference between a cape and a cloak is that one has a hood and one doesn't. So this is
an up-to-date version of Svard.
This model is accurate. It is canonically accurate. I also paid close attention to the skin and hair colours. For the skin, I went with a pale flesh tone and added pink for my highlights, meaning that my highlights are richer and warmer than their surroundings, which gives quite a different look to the usual highlighting up into white. This was a little bit of an experiment on my part, and I think it came out well. The hair and beard was simpler, tan, black wash, and then tan mixed with white for some shades of straw. Importantly, his beard, which separates into 2 spikes, much like my own. There's a reason why I chose this specific kit, and it was for this head.
I think Paul's feeling jealous.
Oh, it's so cute and itty bitty.
Just because you don't have these long flowing beards to make these just tiny rat tail plaits.
It's a Ratman tail.
Finally, I painted the shield. For some reason, I chose to paint yellow on top of the dark green I had already base coated. I used the same pink I had on my wet palette from painting the skin, but using it on a large, flat, dark surface caused me some real problems with opacity and lumpiness. The yellow on top of the pink gave me a bright yellow, as I expected, but the physical texture from the previous layers of paint, it kind of spoils the effect. I have to admit I was disheartened by the shield. I thought I was doing really well with this model. The clothing and the fur came out really well, the chainmail looks solid look, but the shield, especially being such a prominent visible part of the model, was a downer ending for me. Separating out some flower tufts could have been the end of this model, but there is one last element that I do need to add. As I mentioned earlier, my character is a spearman, always breaking spears and ending up using a sword. So I went through my bits box, found an appropriate looking spear, gave it a broken tip, kind of hacked the plastic to make it fractured, and gave it a quick paint job. And with that on the base, now the model is done. And so with the model completed, this video can come to a close. If you would be so kind as to look through the description, there's a few links there to some of the other things that I get up to, including the Back to the Brush podcast hosted by Ratman and myself. There's also a donation link down there, so if you want to help me get a better camera, that's the place to go. However, with all that being said, the model done, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and I'm going to leave you with a few more cats.
We're trying to get you more likes and whatever you get on.
Who can say no to such cute kitties?
If you're watching to this point of the video, please drop a like for the cat. And we'll see that I don't get any likes and the cat does.
I've got a Nate figure that Dusty decided he was going to eat the gun off of, so I'm having to glue it back on.
And this is why I don't have cats. I like cats, I just couldn't look after one. I can barely look after myself.
That's so loud.
What, the purring?
We can hear the purring quite well.
Dusty sneezed in my mouth last night.
Ew.
Another reason to not get a cat.
If that mug doesn't make it into the video, I'm going to be very annoyed.
Fine, I'll put it in the video right at the end.